Karen tried to turn my range into a park. I made it a federal training site for law enforcement. Have you ever had a neighbor who thought they could control your life with a clipboard and a vendetta? That's where my story begins, on a dusty piece of land in rural Montana, where my shooting ranhail labor of love built over a decade became the target of Karen's crusade to turn it into a community nature preserve. She stormed in with petitions, righteous indignation, and a knack for stirring up trouble, claiming my range was a danger to society. But what Karen didn't know was that her overreach would spark a battle that ended with her plans in ashes and my land transformed into something far bigger than either of us could have imagined, a federal training site for law enforcement, a legacy that would outlast her tantrums. It all started on a crisp fall morning in 2023. I'd been running my range, Ironwood Tactical, for years, a haven for local hunters, sport shooters, and veterans honing their skills. The land was mine, bought with every penny of my savings, and I'd spent countless hours clearing brush, setting up berms, and ensuring it met every safety regulation. My range wasn't just a business. It was a sanctuary for folks who valued marksmanship and the Second Amendment. But Karen, a recent transplant from the city with a penchant for meddling, saw it differently. She moved into a McMansion a mile away and decided the sound of gunfire was disrupting the serenity of our rural paradise. Never mind that her house was built long after my range was established, she was determined to shut me down. Karen's campaign began with a knock on my door, her arms crossed, a petition clutched like a weapon. "Your range is a public nuisance," she declared, her voice dripping with self-righteous authority. "I'm starting a movement to turn this land into a park for families, not guns." I tried reasoning with her, explaining the range's safety record and its role in the community, but she wasn't listening. She'd already rallied a small posse of like-minded newcomers, armed with buzzwords like environmental impact and public safety. Within weeks, she was at town hall meetings, waving her petition and painting me as some backwoods militia type. The irony? She drove a gas-guzzling SUV to these meetings about saving nature. The truth was, Karen's crusade wasn't about safety or the environment, it was about control. She didn't understand the culture of our tight-knit community, where hunting and shooting were traditions passed down for generations. My range was a place where kids learned firearms safety, where veterans found camaraderie, and where locals prepared for hunting season. I'd hosted free classes for women's self-defense and even worked with the sheriff's department to train deputies. But Karen didn't care about facts. She twisted every gunshot into a threat, claiming the noise was traumatizing local wildlife and that lead from bullets was poisoning the soil. I had environmental reports proving otherwise. My range used steel targets and lead-free ammo when required, but she dismissed them as fake news. The real blow came when Karen got the county planning board involved. She'd schmoozed a few officials, and suddenly I was hit with a cease and desist notice, citing zoning concerns. My heart sank. I dotted every I and crossed every T when I built Ironwood. But Karen's influence was spreading like wildfire. She'd even convinced a local environmental group to back her, claiming my range was on ecologically sensitive land. I hired a lawyer, burning through savings to fight the notice, and dug into the zoning laws myself. That's when I uncovered the first twist. The land Karen wanted as a park wasn't just any plot, it was adjacent to a proposed luxury development her husband's real estate firm was quietly pushing. Her nature preserve was a front to boost property values for their project. Armed with this revelation, I went on the offensive. I rallied my supporters, hunters, veterans, and local law enforcement who'd trained at Ironwood. At the next town hall, we packed the room, outnumbering Karen's clique 3-1. I presented my evidence: the environmental reports, the range's safety record, and the shady connection to her husband's development. The crowd erupted in support, but Karen doubled down, accusing me of spreading lies and endangering children. She even tried to play the victim, claiming my supporters were intimidating her. The planning board, caught in the crossfire, postponed their decision, giving me time to fight back. That's when an unexpected ally emerged. Sheriff Daniels, a grizzled veteran who'd trained his deputies at my range for years. He'd been quietly watching the drama unfold and approached me with an idea that changed everything. "Your range is one of the best facilities in the county," he said. "Why not pitch it as a training site for law enforcement? The feds are always looking for secure locations." He explained that the National Park Service and other agencies were expanding their law enforcement training programs, often needing private land for tactical exercises. My range, with its isolated location and robust setup, was perfect. Daniels had contacts at the federal law enforcement training centers, FLEC, and he offered to make the introduction. The idea was a long shot, but I ran with it. I spent weeks crafting a proposal, highlighting Ironwood's safety features, its capacity for live-fire training, and its potential to serve agencies like the NPS, which was seeking sites for its Park Ranger Law Enforcement Academy, PRLEA. I leaned on Sheriff Daniels' network, and soon I was in talks with federal officials. They were impressed by the range's infrastructure and its rural setting, ideal for training without urban distractions. Meanwhile, Karen was oblivious, still pushing her park idea and lobbying the county to seize my land through eminent domain. The showdown came at a public hearing in early 2024. Karen arrived with her usual entourage, armed with glossy brochures about her community park. She spoke first, painting a utopian vision of families picnicking where my range stood, free from the violence of guns. The crowd murmured, some swayed by her polished presentation. Then it was my turn. I walked to the podium, heart-pounding, and laid out my case. Ironwood wasn't just a range. It was a community asset, a training ground for law enforcement, and now a potential federal training site. I revealed the development scheme tied to Karen's husband, producing documents that left the room gasping. Then, in a twist that stunned even me, Sheriff Daniels took the mic and announced that FLEC had conditionally approved my proposal, pending final inspections. The room exploded in applause. Karen's face turned crimson. She stammered, accusing me of militarizing the community, but her words fell flat. The planning board, now aware of her ulterior motives, voted unanimously to lift the cease and desist order. Her park dream was dead. Over the next few months, her campaign unraveled. The environmental group dropped their support when I shared my lead-free ammo policy and soil tests. Her husband's development deal collapsed under scrutiny, and Karen herself became a pariah, her credibility shot. Locals who'd once humored her now saw her as a manipulative outsider. By summer, she'd put her McMansion up for sale and left town, her tail between her legs. But the story doesn't end with Karen's defeat. By late 2024, Ironwood Tactical was officially designated a federal training site for law enforcement, hosting NPS Rangers, ATF agents, and even FBI trainees for specialized firearms and tactical courses. The revenue stabilized my finances, and I expanded the range to include a shoot house for advanced training, inspired by FBI programs I'd read about. I hired local veterans as instructors, giving back to the community that had rallied behind me. Ironwood became more than a rangeite, was a symbol of resilience, a place where law enforcement honed skills to protect public lands and people. Looking back, I could have let Karen's crusade crush me. Instead, her overreach pushed me to dream bigger. My range, once a target of her wrath, now trains the next generation of rangers and agents, safeguarding places like our national parks. It's a legacy that humbles me every day. So what do you think? Was Karen's downfall a case of justice served? Or did she have a point about balancing community needs? Share your thoughts. I am curious to hear where you stand.